The Cosmic Spice restaurant sat in the busiest part of New Seoul spaceport. Humans and aliens alike came here to eat good food before their journeys across the stars. The restaurant was small but clean, with walls painted red and gold. Pictures of old Earth Korea hung next to images of distant planets. The air smelled of spicy food and sweet sauces. Jisoo wiped sweat from her forehead as she carried 3 plates to table 5. She was tall and strong, with dark skin that glowed under the restaurant's lights. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was spotless despite the busy dinner rush. "Careful, the plates are hot," she said with a smile as she set down the food. The family of 4, tourists from Mars, thanked her and began to eat right away. Jisoo loved watching people enjoy the food she helped create. Though her name tag said server, she was much more than that. Mr. Han, the old Korean man who owned Cosmic Spice, let her create special dishes that weren't on the regular menu. Her Earth Korean fusion meals were becoming famous around the spaceport. Jisoo called Ta from the kitchen. He was the head cook, a short man with kind eyes. "Order for table 9 is ready." She hurried to the kitchen, passing by the large window that looked out onto the spaceport docks. A sleek silver ship had just landed, one of those expensive private vessels that usually carried important people. "Do you think we'll be busy tonight?" Ta asked as he handed her a tray of steaming bowls. Jisoo nodded. The Vespian trade delegation arrived today. They always bring business. The Vespians were an alien race known for their purple skin and ability to sense human emotions. They were important trading partners with Earth and Korean colonies. Their visits always meant good tips for servers. Jisoo was heading back to the dining room when the front door chimed. A group of 7 people entered. 6 purple-skinned Vespians in flowing silver robes, and 1 human man. The man was tall with pale skin and expensive clothes. He walked like someone used to giving orders. "Welcome to Cosmic Spice," said the host, bowing slightly. "Do you have a reservation?" "Park, table for 7, said the man without returning the bow. "I called ahead for the best table." Jisoo watched as they were seated at the large round table near the window. She finished delivering her order to table 9, then approached Mr. Han, who was arranging bottles behind the bar. "Mr. Han, would you like me to take the VIP table?" she asked. The old man looked at the new arrivals and frowned slightly. "That is Park Sun-ho. He works with the Earth Korean Embassy as their chief trade negotiator." He sighed. "He is not an easy customer, but yes, please take care of them. Your English is better than mine for dealing with the Vespians." Jisoo nodded and grabbed 7 menus. She put on her best smile and approached the table. "Good evening and welcome to Cosmic Spice," she said, bowing to the group. "My name is Jisoo, and I'll be your server tonight." The Vespians nodded politely. Their large, pupilless eyes blinked slowly as they studied her. Jisoo knew they could feel her nervousness, but she kept her smile steady. Park barely looked at her. "We'll need your best wine list. These are important guests." "Of course, sir. Our finest selection is." "Just bring the list." Park cut her off, turning to speak to the Vespian seated to his right. Jisoo handed out the menus and went to get the wine list. When she returned, the group seemed deep in conversation about trade regulations. She waited patiently at Park's elbow until he finally acknowledged her. "What do you recommend for our guests?" Park asked, his tone suggesting he didn't really value her opinion. Jisoo brightened. This was her chance. "We have several special dishes that combine traditional Korean flavors with spices that appeal to Vespian tastes. I helped create a fusion bibimbap that." Park's laugh cut through her explanation. It wasn't a kind laugh. "You created Korean fusion dishes?" His voice was loud enough that nearby tables turned to look. "I think you should stick to serving, not pretending to understand real Korean cuisine." Jisoo felt her cheeks grow hot. The restaurant had suddenly become very quiet. "I assure you, sir, I studied Korean cooking for 5 years under Mr. Han. And, please, Park waved his hand dismissively. Next you'll tell me you know more about Vespian tastes than I do, when I've been negotiating with them for a decade. He turned to the Vespians. You must forgive the staff here. They try their best, but they sometimes forget their place. The lead Vespian, Ambassador Vor, blinked slowly. His face showed no expression, but Jisoo knew he could feel her humiliation. All Vespians could sense emotions. We are curious about authentic tastes, the ambassador said carefully. Perhaps you should order for us, Mr. Park, since you know best. Park smiled, clearly pleased. Excellent idea. We'll have the traditional samgyeopsal set for the table with extra kimchi. And tell the kitchen to tone down the spices. I don't think our guests can handle real Korean heat. Jisoo knew the Vespians actually preferred spicy food. Their taste buds were different from humans, but she just nodded and wrote down the order. And don't bother coming back with suggestions, Park added. Just send someone who knows their place. Jisoo bowed slightly and walked away, her back straight despite the burning shame she felt. As she passed other tables, she saw people quickly look away, pretending they hadn't heard. In the kitchen, she handed the order to Ta, who frowned when he saw her face. What happened? He asked quietly. Park Soon-ho happened, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He doesn't think I should be making or suggesting Korean food. He wants the traditional samgyeopsal set with extra kimchi, but with reduced spice for the Vespians. Tai snorted. Reduced spice. Doesn't he know Vespians love heat? He thinks he knows everything. Jisoo turned away so Ta wouldn't see the tears forming in her eyes. A gentle hand rested on her shoulder. It was Mr. Han, who had followed her into the kitchen. I heard, he said simply. Park Soon-ho has always been a fool who thinks Korean culture belongs only to those who look like him. Jisoo wiped her eyes quickly. I'm fine. I'll serve another table. No, Mr. Han said firmly. You will continue to serve them. With dignity. Show him that his words cannot diminish you. But he asked for someone else. This is my restaurant, Mr. Han said, his old eyes suddenly fierce. For now. This last part confused Jisoo. For now. Mr. Han smiled slightly. I was going to tell you next week, but perhaps now is the right time. He guided her to the small office at the back of the kitchen and closed the door. Jisoo, I am 73 years old. My wife wants us to retire to New Busan, where our grandchildren live. I have been looking for someone to take over this place. Jisoo's heart began to race. Mr. Han, are you saying? I am selling cosmic spice to you, he said simply. The papers are already being processed. By next month, this restaurant will be yours. Jisoo's legs felt weak. She sat down on the nearest chair. But I don't have enough money to. We will work out a payment plan. You will keep working and pay me over time. He smiled. I've watched you for 5 years. No one cares for this place like you do. No one understands how to blend the old with the new like you do. Tears filled Jisoo's eyes again, but for a different reason now. So Mr. Han continued, his voice growing firm again. You will go back out there and serve Park Soon-ho and his guests with your head held high. Because soon, you will be serving him in your restaurant. Jisoo stood up, feeling the new strength flow through her. She straightened her uniform and nodded. Yes, sir, she said, and when the Vespians complain that the food isn't spicy enough. Mr. Han's eyes twinkled. Perhaps you could offer them a special hot sauce on the side. One of your special creations. The very, very hot one. Jisoo smiled. The one I call Earth's Revenge. Exactly. Mr. Han opened the door. Now go. Show him what real service means. And remember, everything he says tonight, he says in your restaurant. Jisoo walked back into the dining room, her steps light despite Park's glare when she approached the table again. He didn't know it yet, but things were about to change at Cosmic Spice, and Jisoo couldn't wait to see his face when he found out. 3 weeks passed since the night Park Soon-ho had insulted Jisoo in front of everyone. The ownership papers were signed. Cosmic Spice now belonged to Jisoo. Mr. Han stayed on as a helper for the first month, showing her all the business parts of running a restaurant. The food is only half the work, he told her as they sat in the small office going through bills. You must also watch money, manage workers, and keep customers happy. Jisoo nodded, taking notes on her tablet. She had been saving money for years, hoping to open her own place someday. Now her dream had come true sooner than expected. What will you change first? Mr. Han asked, his eyes curious. Jisoo smiled. Nothing big at first, small steps. I don't want to scare away regular customers. She already had plans forming in her mind. The restaurant would keep its Korean heart, but welcome influences from all over Earth and beyond, just like the spaceport itself, where different cultures met and mixed. Wise, Mr. Han said with a nod. But don't wait too long. Make this place truly yours. The next day, Jisoo called a meeting with all 15 staff members before opening time. They gathered in the dining room, looking curious. Many had worked at Cosmic Spice for years. As you know, I am the new owner, Jisoo said, trying to keep her voice steady. Being the boss still felt strange. Mr. Han trusted me with his restaurant, and I promised to respect what he built. Ta, the head cook, raised his hand. Will we keep the same menu? Jisoo took a deep breath. We will keep the most popular dishes, but I want to try new things too. Special dishes that blend Korean food with other cuisines. Some of the older staff looked worried. Change was always scary. I have something to show you, Jisoo continued. She passed out tablets with pictures of new dishes she had created. These are foods that honor Korean cooking, but add new flavors. I want Cosmic Spice to be a place where tradition meets innovation. The staff began to look through the pictures, talking excitedly among themselves. This looks amazing, said Mai, one of the servers. Is this really kimchi with Martian red peppers? Jisoo nodded. Yes. The peppers have a sweet heat that works well with the fermented cabbage. And this, Ta pointed to another picture. Bibimbap with Vespian blue rice. Their rice absorbs flavors better than earth rice, Jisoo explained, and the color changes depending on what spices you use. Slowly, the worried looks changed to interest. Even the oldest cook, who had worked with Mr. Han for 20 years, seemed curious about trying new recipes. We will start with daily specials, Jisoo told them. See what customers like best. Then we can change the regular menu. By the end of the meeting, most of the staff seemed excited about the new direction. Only one server, an older man named Do-Yun, looked unhappy. Is something wrong? Jisoo asked him privately as the others went to prepare for opening. No disrespect, Do-Yun said quietly, but I've served traditional Korean food for 30 years. I don't know if I can recommend these new creations with honest enthusiasm. Jisoo respected his honesty. I understand. Would you prefer to work lunch shifts? We'll keep the lunch menu completely traditional for now. Relief spread across his face. Yes, thank you. That would be better. Over the next 2 weeks, Jisoo made small changes. New tablecloths in deep blue instead of red. Modern artwork next to the traditional Korean paintings. And most importantly, a special menu section called Cosmic Fusion with 5 new dishes. The customers noticed. Some old regulars were hesitant, but most were willing to try the new foods. The spaceport workers, humans, and aliens who passed through daily seemed especially excited about the changes. This is amazing, said a human pilot after trying the Vespian blue rice bibimbap. I've eaten at stations across 3 systems, and I've never tasted anything like this. Word spread quickly. Soon, people were coming specifically to try Jisoo's fusion dishes. She worked long hours in the kitchen with Tai, teaching him her recipes and learning from his experience. You should put your picture on the wall, Ta suggested one evening as they cleaned up after closing. Let people know there's a new owner with a new vision. Jisoo shook her head. Not yet. I want the food to speak for itself first. She had another reason too, though she didn't say it aloud. She wanted to see Park Soon-ho's face when he returned, as she was sure he would eventually, and discovered who owned Cosmic Spice now. 1 month after taking ownership, Jisoo hired 3 new staff members: a cook from Nigeria who specialized in spicy dishes, a server from Mars Colony who spoke 5 languages, and a young Korean pastry chef who created desserts with unexpected flavors. The restaurant was busier than ever. They now needed reservations for dinner service every night. Food bloggers from around the spaceport wrote reviews praising the mysterious new direction of Cosmic Spice. Mr. Han visited occasionally, always smiling proudly when he saw the crowded dining room. "You were the right choice," he told Jisoo during one visit. "You honor the past while embracing the future." 6 weeks after becoming owner, Jisoo received a call that made her heart race. "Cosmic Spice reservation desk," she answered. "This is Park Soon-ho's office," said a crisp voice. "Mr. Park needs to book the private room for tomorrow evening. A dinner for 12 people. Very important guests." Jisoo gripped the phone tightly. "May I ask who the guests will be?" "The Vespian Trade Delegation and the Earth Korean Trade Commission. Top-level officials." Jisoo smiled to herself. "I see. We would be honored to host such distinguished guests." After hanging up, she immediately called Tai and her other cooks for an emergency meeting. "Tomorrow night, we will have the most important meal we've ever served," she told them. "I want every dish to be perfect." They spent the rest of the day planning the menu. Jisoo decided to create a special dining experience, 7 courses that told a story of Earth and Vespian cultures coming together, with Korean traditions at the heart. The final dish would be her masterpiece, a dessert that changed flavors as you ate it, starting with a traditional Korean sweet taste and transforming into something that would remind the Vespians of their home world. That night, Jisoo could barely sleep. She kept thinking about Park Soon-ho and how he had dismissed her. Tomorrow, he would learn the truth. But more importantly, tomorrow was her chance to show what Cosmic Spice had become under her leadership. The next day, Jisoo arrived at the restaurant early. She personally inspected every table, glass, and utensil in the private dining room. The staff could feel her tension. "You seem nervous," Ta said as they prepared ingredients in the kitchen. "I've never seen you like this before." Jisoo chopped vegetables with focused precision. "One of the guests tomorrow was unkind to me once. He didn't think I belonged in a Korean restaurant." Understanding dawned on Ta's face. "The rude man, Park." Jisoo nodded. Tai smiled wickedly. "Then we will make sure every bite he eats reminds him how wrong he was." The hours passed quickly as they prepared. At 5 o'clock, Jisoo changed from her cook's clothes into a beautiful modern hanbok, a deep blue traditional Korean dress redesigned with a contemporary cut. She looked powerful and professional. "Should I be the one to greet them?" asked Mae, who usually handled VIP guests. Jisoo shook her head. "No, I'll do it myself." At exactly 6 o'clock, the front door opened. Park Soon-ho entered first, followed by 6 Vespians in formal attire and 5 human officials wearing the insignia of the Earth Korean Trade Commission. Jisoo stood at the entrance to the private room, her hands clasped in front of her, a polite smile on her face. Park was looking down at his phone as he approached. "We have a reservation," he said without looking up. "The name is..." He stopped suddenly when he finally raised his eyes and saw Jisoo. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by confusion. "Welcome to Cosmic Spice, Mr. Park," Jisoo said, her voice calm and professional. "Your private room is ready. I'm Jisoo, the owner and executive chef. We're honored to serve you and your distinguished guests tonight." Park's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Behind him, the lead Vespian, Ambassador Vor, tilted his head curiously, his large eyes blinking as he sensed the emotional tension between Jisoo and Park. Please, Jisoo continued, gesturing toward the private room. Follow me. As Park passed her, still speechless, Jisoo allowed herself one small, satisfied smile. Part 2 of her journey was complete. The transformation of cosmic spice was a success. Now it was time to show Park, and everyone else, exactly what she and her restaurant were capable of. Park Soon-ho followed Jisoo into the private dining room, his face pale with shock. The room had changed since his last visit. The walls were now a deep blue color with small silver stars painted on them. The large round table was set with beautiful dishes and glasses that caught the light. Please, make yourselves comfortable, Jisoo said, gesturing to the seats. We have prepared a special 7-course meal for you and your guests tonight. Ambassador Vor, the lead Vespian, stepped forward. His purple skin seemed to shimmer under the soft lights. We are honored by your welcome, he said in his musical voice. The other Vespians nodded in agreement. Park still hadn't spoken. He kept staring at Jisoo, as if trying to make sense of what was happening. One of the human officials, an older woman with silver hair, smiled at Jisoo. I've heard wonderful things about the new direction of cosmic spice. You must be the creative force behind these changes. Yes, Jisoo answered with a small bow. I took over from Mr. Han 6 weeks ago. Minister Kim, Park finally found his voice, speaking to the silver-haired woman. Perhaps we should consider a different venue. I'm not sure if. Nonsense, Minister Kim interrupted. Everyone at the Trade Commission has been talking about this place. The fusion dishes are supposed to be extraordinary. The Vespians had already seated themselves. Ambassador Vor looked at Park with his large, knowing eyes. Is there a problem, Mr. Park? Your emotional state seems disturbed. Park forced a smile. No problem at all. I was just surprised to see changes in the restaurant. Jisoo kept her face neutral, but inside she felt a small flame of satisfaction. The first course will arrive shortly, she said. Please enjoy our special tea blend while you wait. As she turned to leave, Minister Kim called after her. Young lady, your face seems familiar. Have we met before? Jisoo paused at the door. I don't believe so, Minister Kim. Wait, the minister said, her eyes widening. Were you a finalist in the All-Earth Culinary Competition 3 years ago? The chef who combined Korean and West African flavors. Jisoo nodded, surprised to be recognized. Yes, I placed 3rd. Minister Kim turned to the others at the table. We have a celebrity chef preparing our meal. I remember the judges said your food was ahead of its time. They were clearly right. Park's face had gone from pale to slightly red. He didn't look at Jisoo as he studied the menu card in front of him. I'll return with your first course, Jisoo said, and walked back to the kitchen. In the kitchen, her team was working with focused energy. Tai was carefully arranging the first course, a small bowl of clear broth with 3 tiny dumplings, each a different color. How did he react? Tai asked quietly. Like he saw a ghost, Jisoo replied with a small smile. And Minister Kim recognized me from the cooking competition. Tai's eyes widened. The trade minister knows who you are. This gets better and better. Jisoo checked each bowl of soup before they went out. Everything must be perfect tonight. This isn't just about Park. It's about showing the Trade Commission and the Vespians what we can do. The servers took the first course out. Jisoo watched through the small window in the kitchen door as the guests tasted the soup. The Vespian's eyes widened with pleasure. Minister Kim nodded appreciatively. Even Park, after hesitating, seemed surprised by the flavor. For the next hour, Jisoo orchestrated the meal from the kitchen, sending out course after course. Each dish told a story of cultural connection. The second course was a modern take on Korean pancakes, with ingredients from 3 different planets. The third course featured traditional Vespian root vegetables prepared with Korean cooking techniques. The fourth course was a small portion of spicy rice cakes that changed color as they were eaten. The fifth course was Jisoo's famous blue rice bibimbap, now enhanced with rare spices that the Vespians treasured. The sixth course was a new creation, thin sliced Korean beef prepared with both Earth and Vespian cooking methods. Between each course, Jisoo would step into the dining room to explain the dishes and answer questions. Each time, the guests seemed more impressed. The Vespians asked detailed questions about her cooking methods. The human officials complimented the harmony of flavors. Only Park remained mostly silent, watching Jisoo with a mixture of confusion and reluctant admiration. During the sixth course, Ambassador Vor asked a question that made the room go quiet. "Chef Jisoo, I believe we met before, when you were in a different position here. Is that correct?" All eyes turned to Jisoo. She nodded calmly. "Yes, Ambassador. I was a server here before becoming the owner." The ambassador's large eyes blinked slowly. "I remember that night. There was discomfort. Someone suggested you did not understand Korean cuisine." Park suddenly became very interested in his food, not meeting anyone's eyes. Jisoo smiled. Sometimes people make judgments based on appearances rather than knowledge or skill. Minister Kim looked between Jisoo and Park, her experienced eyes missing nothing. "I hope no one from our delegation caused offense," she said carefully. Before Jisoo could answer, Ambassador Vor spoke again. His voice was gentle but clear. Mr. Park had strong opinions that night about who should prepare and serve Korean food. The room grew tense. Park's face was now fully red. Jisoo decided to ease the moment. The past is the past. Tonight is about building bridges between cultures, not dwelling on misunderstandings. Please, enjoy your meal while I prepare the final course. She returned to the kitchen, where Ta was already working on the dessert, Jisoo's masterpiece. It was a sweet rice cake shaped like a small galaxy, with swirls of color that represented Earth and the Vespian homeworld. "They're talking about what happened that night," Jisoo told Ta. The ambassador remembered. Ta grinned. Of course he did. Vespians never forget emotional moments. He carefully added the final touches to the desserts. "But you handled it with grace. Much more than Park deserves." Jisoo helped arrange the desserts on special plates that would enhance the changing flavors. "This isn't about what he deserves. It's about showing who I really am." When she brought out the desserts, the conversation in the room stopped. Everyone stared at the beautiful creations. "This is our final course," Jisoo explained. "A dessert that honors both Korean traditional sweets and Vespian flavor-changing techniques. As you eat, the taste will transform from sweet to spicy to something unexpected." The guests began to eat, and soon sounds of delight filled the room. The Vespians seemed especially moved by the dessert. Ambassador Vor closed his eyes as he tasted it. "This," he said when he opened his eyes again, "reminds me of home." "How did you capture this flavor?" "I studied Vespian cuisine," Jisoo replied. "I believe that to truly honor a culture's food, you must understand its heart." Minister Kim put down her spoon and looked at Jisoo with serious eyes. "Young woman, the Trade Commission needs someone like you. We're planning a series of cultural exchange events, and food is always the best diplomat. Would you consider working with us?" Park nearly choked on his dessert. "Minister Kim, there are many established chefs who don't understand what Chef Jisoo clearly does." The minister cut him off. "The future lies in respectful fusion, not rigid tradition. Don't you agree, Ambassador?" The Vespian nodded. "Indeed. The chef has shown unusual insight into our tastes. This is rare among humans." He turned to Jisoo. "We would be honored to have you prepare meals for future trade meetings." Jisoo felt her heart race with excitement. This was an opportunity beyond anything she had dreamed. "The honor would be mine," she said with a deep bow. As the meal ended, the guests began to leave. Minister Kim gave Jisoo her contact information. The Vespians each thanked her in their formal way, touching 3 fingers to their foreheads. Park hung back, clearly uncomfortable. When everyone else had left the private room, he approached Jisoo. "I should Apologize for my behavior during our previous encounter, he said stiffly. I made assumptions that were incorrect. Jisoo looked at him steadily. Thank you for your apology. Park seemed to struggle with his next words. Your food tonight was exceptional. I've never tasted Korean fusion done with such respect for the original traditions. Coming from him, Jisoo knew this was a significant admission. She nodded in acknowledgement. Perhaps, Park continued hesitantly, you could consider catering an upcoming diplomatic function at my home. It would be beneficial for both of us. Jisoo studied his face. Was this a genuine olive branch, or just a way to associate himself with her success? Either way, it presented yet another opportunity. I would be interested in discussing it, she said finally. Call my restaurant tomorrow. As Park left, Jisoo stood in the doorway of Cosmic Spice, watching the important guests board their luxury transport. 6 weeks ago, she had been just a server that Park had dismissed without a thought. Now she was a respected chef and business owner with the attention of interplanetary officials. The stars shone brightly in the spaceport sky. Jisoo smiled to herself, thinking about how far she had come and how much further she might go. The universe, it seemed, was finally opening its doors to her. 6 months had passed since the important dinner at Cosmic Spice. Jisoo stood by the large window of her restaurant, watching ships come and go at the busy spaceport. The view never got old. Her restaurant had changed a lot in those 6 months. They had expanded into the empty shop next door, doubling their size. The walls were now covered with awards and good reviews. Cosmic Spice was the most popular restaurant in New Seoul Spaceport. Boss, the new menus are here, called Mai, bringing in a box. Want to see them? Jisoo nodded and took one of the beautifully printed menus. On the cover was the restaurant's new logo, a swirl of stars forming a spoon shape. Inside, the menu listed dishes from all over Earth and 5 other planets, each with a Korean twist. They look perfect, Jisoo said with a smile. Put them out for tonight's service. Tonight was special. The Earth Korean Trade Commission was hosting a big celebration at Cosmic Spice. A new trade deal with the Vespians had been signed, worth billions of credits. It would help both human and Vespian worlds. Jisoo had been asked to cater all the important meetings during the trade talks. Her food had become famous for bringing people together. Even alien species that usually couldn't eat the same food found something they liked on her menu. The decorations are almost ready in the private room, Ta said, coming in from the kitchen. He was now Jisoo's business partner and helped run the restaurant when she was busy with her other work. And the special cake? Jisoo asked. It's cooling now. We'll decorate it just before the party. Jisoo checked the time. 4 hours until the celebration. She still needed to change clothes and go over her speech. Minister Kim had asked her to say a few words about cultural exchange through food. As Jisoo headed to her office, her phone beeped. It was a message from Park Seung-ho. On my way to drop off the final guest list. Will arrive in 10 minutes. Jisoo smiled to herself. After their awkward first meetings, she and Park had reached a kind of truce. He had hired her to cater several events at his home, and each time, his respect for her seemed to grow. He was still formal and sometimes stiff, but the rudeness was gone. Jisoo had also learned that Park had changed in other ways. After their dinner 6 months ago, Minister Kim had apparently given him a serious talk about his attitude. Now Park was helping to create a training program for young chefs from all backgrounds who wanted to learn about Korean cooking. True to his word, Park arrived 10 minutes later. He wore his usual expensive suit but looked tired. The final list, he said, handing Jisoo a tablet. 3 more Vespian officials added at the last minute. I hope that's not a problem. Not at all, Jisoo assured him. We always prepare extra food for important events. Park nodded, then hesitated. There's something else. Ambassador Vore asked if you could join the main table tonight, not as staff, but as a guest. He says you deserve credit for the trade deal's success. Jisoo's eyes widened. Me? But I just cooked the food. Park's expression softened slightly. We both know it was more than that. Your food helped the Vespians feel welcome and understood. That matters in diplomacy. Jisoo thought for a moment. I plan to be in the kitchen making sure everything runs smoothly. Your team can handle it, Park said. Tai is more than capable. It was the first real compliment Park had ever given about her staff. Jisoo nodded slowly. All right, I'll sit at the main table. After Park left, Jisoo told Tai about the change of plans. He grinned widely. It's about time they recognize what you've done, he said. You should wear that new blue dress you bought. For a kitchen. Jisoo raised an eyebrow. You won't be in the kitchen tonight. You'll be an honored guest. Later that evening, Jisoo stood in her office wearing the deep blue dress. It reminded her of the night sky, with small silver beads that looked like stars. Her hair was styled elegantly, and she wore the small silver earrings that had belonged to her grandmother. Tai knocked on her door. They're starting to arrive. You should come out. Jisoo took a deep breath and followed him. The restaurant looked magical. Soft blue lights made everything glow. The tables were set with the best dishes and silverware. In the center of each table was a small glass sculpture that looked like a mix of earth and Vespian plants. People began to fill the restaurant. Important officials from both Earth and Vespian governments arrived in their finest clothes. Jisoo greeted each one at the door, as was her custom. Minister Kim arrived with several other trade officials. She hugged Jisoo warmly. My dear, you look stunning. And your restaurant, it's even more beautiful than last time. Thank you, Minister, Jisoo said with a small bow. We're honored to host this celebration. Ambassador Vor and the Vespian delegation arrived next. The ambassador's purple skin was decorated with silver patterns for the special occasion. Chef Jisoo, he said in his musical voice, or should I say, Diplomat Jisoo now. Your food has done more for peace than many politicians. Jisoo laughed softly. I'm just a chef who loves bringing flavors together. Sometimes, the ambassador said wisely, that is exactly what the universe needs. As more guests arrived, Jisoo found herself being introduced to people she had only seen on news broadcasts. Important leaders and business people all seemed to know her name now. Park arrived last, escorting a very old Vespian who moved slowly with a walking stick. Everyone in the room bowed deeply when they entered. The High Elder, Minister Kim, whispered to Jisoo. He almost never leaves the Vespian homeworld. His presence is the highest honor. Park brought the High Elder directly to Jisoo. High Elder, may I present Chef Jisoo, owner of Cosmic Spice and culinary advisor to the Trade Commission. The ancient Vespian studied Jisoo with eyes that seemed to see right through her. So you are the one who captures our flavors in your cooking, he said in a voice like rustling leaves. I wished to meet you myself. Jisoo bowed deeply. The honor is mine, High Elder. I have brought you something, the old Vespian said, taking a small box from his pocket. These are spice seeds from my family's private garden. They have never been given to a non-Vespian before. The room went completely silent. Even Park looked shocked. With trembling hands, Jisoo accepted the small box. I don't know what to say. Say you will grow them and create new wonders, the High Elder said simply. Minister Kim gently led them all to their tables then. Jisoo found herself seated between Park and Ambassador Vor at the main table, with the High Elder across from her. As the food was served, all dishes Jisoo had created but Tai had prepared tonight. Park leaned toward her. Do you know what just happened? He asked quietly. Those seeds are considered sacred. This is unprecedented. Jisoo nodded, still overwhelmed. Why me? Park looked at her thoughtfully. 6 months ago, I would have asked the same question. Now I understand. What changed? Jisoo asked. I did, Park admitted. I was wrong about many things. About who belongs where. About what makes food authentic. He paused. Minister Kim helped me see my mistakes, and so did you, with every perfect dish you created. Before Jisoo could respond, Minister Kim clinked her glass for attention and stood up. "Today we celebrate more than a trade deal," she announced. "We celebrate understanding between different peoples, and no one has done more to create that understanding than Chef Jisoo." Everyone applauded. Jisoo felt her cheeks grow warm. In recognition of her contribution, Minister Kim continued, "The Trade Commission is establishing a new culinary diplomacy program, with Jisoo as its director. This program will train chefs from all backgrounds in the art of cross-cultural cooking." More applause filled the room. Tae, watching from the kitchen doorway, gave Jisoo a thumbs up. "Would you like to say a few words?" Minister Kim asked Jisoo. Jisoo stood up slowly, looking around at the room full of important people. She thought about her journey, from a waitress that Park had dismissed to a respected chef sitting at the high table. "Thank you for this honor," she began. "Food has always been my way of bringing people together. When we share a meal, we share part of ourselves, our histories, our hopes." She glanced at Park, who nodded encouragingly. "6 months ago, this restaurant taught me an important lesson," Jisoo continued. "Never judge someone by their appearance or position. The server clearing your table today might own the restaurant tomorrow." A few people chuckled, including Park. "I look forward to training new chefs who will carry this message to all corners of space," Jisoo concluded. "Thank you for believing in me and in the power of food to unite us." As she sat down to enthusiastic applause, Jisoo caught sight of Mr. Han standing by the bar. The old man who had given her a chance raised his glass to her with tears in his eyes. Jisoo raised her own glass in return. From waitress to restaurant owner to director of a diplomatic program, her journey was proof that the universe held endless possibilities for those brave enough to reach for them. And as the evening continued with celebration and joy, Jisoo knew that the best dishes in her life were still waiting to be created.